Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Hi, red.olaghlin here on The Wise Ones. Today, our guest on the USA Global TV and Radio Network also. Today, Tricia Copeland is our featured guest. She's a prolific writer, author of many books, award-winning books, a lot of things. So we have just a myriad of things we can talk about today. Romance, fantasy, dystopian, new adult, young adult. Anyway, Tricia, please join me and let's kind of get into your writing career a little bit here.
Hi, Red. Thank you for having me.
When did you start writing?
I started writing probably 16 years ago. I've only been publishing for 9 years, but I had some years before that when I was working on a lot of content.
Okay, and you picked romance. Is that the first book you wrote?
I wouldn't say it's primarily a romance. There are romance elements to it, but primarily it's based on my experience of recovering from anorexia. So I wrote it as a fiction series, but it is a story of a girl who develops anorexia and shows how she was able to recover from that and regain her footing and become successful.
Before we go into your books, I'm doing a little bit of research. You believe in magic. And,
right.
And I see magic in this and magic in that and magic in a couple other things. So tell us about how your fascination with magic started and what's reinforced it along the way.
Right. Well, even though I started writing the series about a girl recovering from anorexia, really, I love fantasy books. So, and magic obviously is a big part of fantasy plot lines, characters, but I love writing in a lot of different genres, and I was trying to figure out how to connect all those genres, what drew someone to me, or what my brand was, or what was something that encompassed everything that I wrote. And when I thought about it, it was really, I call it magic, but it's that special spark inside each person, or that special idea, a special character, just, little bits and experiences that I call them magical because they're fun or they're inspirational or they make us happy. And that's the magic. Just, you might find magic by reading a book. You might find magic by taking a hike. You might find magic by gathering with your friends. And I just felt like, just that theme of calling things magical in our lives could bring joy to a lot of people. And that's really kind of can span all of my writing and all of my books.
Okay, so it's kind of like finding that little comfort zone that just really comfy, cozy, and it kind of just warms you all over. Is that a fair way of saying it?
That is, or just some like special gift, not gift or special thing that you have, a special ability. Maybe it's you draw really well, and how can you share your art with the world? Or maybe you're an author, or maybe you're a singer, or maybe you love helping people and are great with pets. Like anything that's special about you that you can share that contributes to community.
Okay. I also noticed that you were an avid runner. Are you still?
I am, yes. I did a half marathon this year and was about to do another one, and I broke my toe. So that kind of sidelined that, but yeah, definitely looking forward to getting back out there.
Got a few hills there in Georgia. I assume you're in the hilly part of Georgia.
I used to live in Georgia and now live in Colorado, so we definitely have hills here.
Okay. Um, and when did you start running? Because that's a favorite thing of mine from way back
I
when.
really.
And my son was a runner, and I remember the first time he ever ran an outdoor 10 miles in under an hour, uh, and that was across country,
That's
and
amazing.
that was pretty good. But anyway, it's a fascination for me. So, how did you get involved with running? Is that a high school thing or something before that?
Yeah, my parents ran. Well, I guess my mom more than my dad, but my parents ran, and they would always bring us along to the races. Usually, they were just 5K races for different charities or events in our town where I grew up. And so I started doing that in high school. I ran track, mainly the 1 and 2 mile. I was never fast, but I could run long distances. Then, yeah, when my kids got older and I had more time, I just started doing it again. So, yeah.
Okay.
It's
The
my it's my alone time and my perfect happy time.
Well, when I first started running, I always had to have music playing, a headset or handheld. But then after I got into it a lot more, I wanted that alone time just to let the brain and I'd find out there were so many times that I could just solve a problem. I go out and run for an hour and come back, and you just let the things kind of roll around, and boom, you have solutions. May not be the right solution, but they are solutions to at least think about more.
Yeah,
But
I definitely find that, and it definitely helps with my writing and my plot lines. And I'm always thinking about my characters and what they're going to do next, and how I can get them to from point A to point B where I want to in my stories. So
are any of your characters runners?
I did have a lot of running in my dystopian novels. The characters have to run away. And at one point, they hike all and run all the way from like California to Kentucky. So they did a lot of running, but they didn't have airplanes or cars or anything like that. So, yeah.
Okay, you have various different kinds of uh, when I check in your website. Like, producer, if you could bring up our website, I think there's several things there that we can begin chatting about. Uh, but one of the ones I noticed, you use a word FAE, which to me means fuel air explosive. Yeah, but in your particular case, not being military, it's going to mean something else. And when I looked it up, okay, it's not fairy, but it's another genre within European culture, history, whatever. So if we get a chance, we'll take a look at your book on that one. And then you have a new book coming out, what, next month?
Yes, I do. The fourth book in the Fae fantasy series that I write. So that's called the Realm Chronicle series. And yes, Fae is just another spelling for fairy to me. And there's a lot of interpretations of fairies. My Fae have wings and they don't have pointy ears. So that's makes my Fae a little bit different. Also, I didn't do a lot of research on Fae before I started writing them, so they don't always have the typical characteristics that sometimes you hear about fairies and Fae. Like they can lie, but they don't often lie because they do live like a very simple life in kind of a Middle Ages setting, but they live in a realm underneath our realm. So it's a present day series, but it takes place in a world underneath our world, like underneath the bedrock of our world. So that's sort of my setting for my Fae. They can fly around, and they're not. A lot of times, the Fae are affected by iron or metals, and mine aren't affected by iron or metals. But they live a simple life. They farm, they trade goods, they raise their cattle, and get all their own food. They have more kingdoms and that are run by monarchs. So the main character is a Fae princess named Titania, and her father gives her the monarchy at age 15. She's the first ever female monarch in her realm. So not only does the rest of the realm and the rest of the kingdom's leaders say, maybe we should have a 15 to 17 is about adult when they're becoming adults for the Fae, but the rest of the realm is like, maybe we shouldn't have a female. We've never had one. And even a lot of people within her advisors are wondering whether she can actually do the job she's been given. So she has a lot of challenges. And has to prove herself, has to prove that she's worthy, and has to decide for herself that that's what she wants to do. So that book, the first book in the Realm Chronicle series, is To Be a Fae Queen, which is, you know, her making that decision and earning her place. And then the second book is To Be a Fae Guardian, where she really has to safeguard her realm from an evil being. I'll just say that. I won't say too much about that. Gives too much away. The third book is To Be a Fae Legend. And then the fourth book that comes out next month is To Be a Fae Rogue. So we have her adventures in what we call Middle Earth, which is the Fae realm under our realm. And then Upper Earth is where the humans live. And she does come into the human world through fairy rings that they're magically activated. So that's always a lot of fun. And she interacts with the witches and the vampires and some other fun characters in the new book, elves and werewolves. So I had a lot of fun like creating her world and having her interact with characters and, well, fantasy characters in our human realm.
How many more books in the Fae series do you expect to write?
Just one. I'm working on the finale to the series right now, so that will come out probably like mid to late summer next year.
So you're writing a book a year, or just in that particular series, a book a year?
I usually, some years I've published like 3 books a year when I was publishing a lot. The past 2 years I've just done 1 to 2 books a year. So that's pretty standard for me now.
And then how do you keep do you have a picture of your character so that when you're writing in their mindset, you can actually see the person you're writing from within, and maybe the person that they're talking to or expounding? So I know that's one thing that some authors use, is they have different illustrations or caricatures or photographs of the, I use it for my audience when I write, because I write for baby boomers and I need to be able to see, you know, that particular geriatric set, for lack of a better word, because I need to keep focused on that. And anyway, so do you have something like that you use to keep in character?
I do. In the beginning, I used it more than I do now. I think my characters are so ingrained in my head, I don't need them as much. But I'll have multiple files open on my computer that has like all the attributes of my characters. Maybe if they have, you know, what they look like, what their personalities are, what their current state of angst or their current state of, you know, what their mission is right now. I don't always plot and make outlines beforehand, but I try to write down like all the scenes of what I just wrote each time I finish, so that when I come back to it, I don't have to remember what's going on or where my character was or what they were feeling or what their next goal was. But I do have maps, and I have drawings, and I have plot lines, and I have notebooks. I have almost everything you could think of to like. I like creating graphics that can, you know, just inspire me to maybe find out a new plot line or a new situation that my characters might get put into.
I noticed a new term that and again, this is not my area, romance and fantasy, but you have, I know young adult romance, but you used a term, I think, on your website, new adult, or new adult. Tell me about that.
Right. So new adult is really that age. So young adult might be, depending on, I guess young adult could be, you know, any age, because middle grade might be 10 to 12 or 9 to 12. And then young adult seems to be 12, 13 and to 18. So new adult is that 18 to maybe 25 age range, when you're maybe in college or just graduating from college and just getting on your feet and going out on your own and supporting yourself. That is what would be considered the new adult genre. And it used to be that was more like typically romance books, but I think people are really now are defining it by what age their characters are and what their characters are going through. So that's the new adult genre. And most of my romances from the Perfect Romance series are that new adult, where the characters are in college or just getting their first jobs and navigating that time in their life.
Yeah, that's a pretty exciting time in life, actually, isn't it?
It is fun.
Dystopian, that's a totally different kind of thing. Now, you talked earlier about running to Kentucky from California or whatever. that's one of your dystopian novels.
Right. My Lovelock Ones was the first book in the Lovelock series, and I published, I think it was 2019 when I published it. I wrote it in 2018. It was eerily predictive of 2020. So it hasn't been as popular since 2020 because the world my character is set in is a futuristic world where there's already been one global pandemic, and then they start seeing signs of a second pandemic. And so her parents and some other parents are all military families ship their kids off to the desert to be isolated from the pandemic, so they hopefully won't experience that. But in the progress of being shipped to the desert, her father hands her and another teenage boy, they're 16 and 17 years old, the keys to the truck with all the moms and the kids in them, and says, hey, you have to drive these people across the desert and take them to safety. And the teenagers are, they're pretty not challenged, but they're, a little fearful about that. But it was eerily predictive because, well, the good thing is my characters don't experience the pandemic because they were sent to this safe place. But her sister does get this flu, and so she has to figure out how to get the cure or if there is a cure, how to get the cure, and if she can do that. So she ends up doing a lot of things she probably would never have thought she would do to help her sister out and help her family come back together, because their dad is still on the military base and they're in the desert location. So it was fun to write, and it was eerie when 2020 came and some of my predictions seemed like perfectly on target with what happened in our real pandemic.
Anybody in your family in the military?
No. Well, I guess my uncle. Yeah, my uncle was in the military. He was a lifelong Army person. So
The books that you're writing now, are those the books that you used to read a lot in your earlier years?
they are. I love fantasy. I always read fantasy as a young adult, and even as, when I got into college, I loved reading Lord of the Rings and Mary Stewart's Crystal Cave about Merlin and his younger years, as well as King Arthur and the Knights, were some of my favorite stories. I think I started out with Dorothy and the Land of Oz and the 13 books that go along with that series.
It seems like I have certain things I love to read, but that's not the area that I write in. It's totally different. But it's that comfort zone we talked about earlier, that magic of just you put yourself living in that book or in a character or whatever it may happen to be, or just even being a spectator in some cases. And so when you're writing, you're keeping in mind your audience, being able to bring them up and let them down, and just keep that ebb and flow of the story or the focus of the book. So how do you do that? Because that's a hard thing to do. It's easy to bring somebody up or bring them down. You should keep them up and keep them down, but you can't do that because it's unfair to the reader. They can't handle that extended period of time. At least that's what I've been told. And I've had a couple of books where okay, and it keeps you right there, and then all of a sudden you kind of come down and you kind of, okay, I can relax and breathe again. How do you write the story and then kind of figure out where you want to amplify and then you kind of relax, or how do you go about figuring out where to do that at?
I guess I get really invested in my characters. So whatever my characters are going through, I usually am feeling it with them or experiencing with them. I will often start crying if one of my characters experiences loss or is sad. So I think when I feel like I need that break, like I start feeling like, oh, this is too much tension, this is too hard, let me give my character a little break, then I'll do something fun with them. Like in my current Faye story, the main character, well, she loves to fly, obviously, because she has wings and she loves to fly, but she also loves to swim, which is a little bit of her escape. So she can dive down under the water, and she's completely, and she does it at night very often. So it's dark, and then she's only surrounded by the feel of the water. So and it shows that, she's replenishing her her pot of her pot of energy and her pot of her psyche, so that she can go back and do what she needs to do. So it's showing that it's not all horrible all the time, and she is experiencing little pockets of fun and escape from her normal stress, but also giving the reader that experience of that pocket of fun or escapism. So I guess I do it that way. Usually when I'm plotting out a book, I'll put major points in. I know what the major things are going to happen and where I'm going to end up. But as I'm writing, I always try to think, okay, how do I get my character from one place to the other? What is something fun I can, or something different that I can have the reader experience that maybe they didn't expect? So I like putting things like that in there, and it's just kind of a creative process for me. I love writing that, and a lot of authors plot everything out and know exactly what they're going to write, but I feel like I find that I get bored if I do that. So I oftentimes, I'll get 20 or 30 minutes in and think, oh, I'm not sure how I'm getting my character to the next point. Then I'll go for take a walk or a run or, just do something different, and an idea will come to me, like brainstorm an idea of what's the best way to get to my character where they need to be.
I was chatting with another author last week, and I had read something literally that morning, Facebook or something, and talked about Hemingway's primary 4 or 5 things that every author should do or whatever. And one of the things was never finish the plot. In other words, you know what the end's going to be. Don't write until the end. Stop at the end, because you can come back and pick it up and continue writing. But if you write until the end, now you have to figure out what's going to happen next. And sometimes that delays the book going. But as it filters through the mind, because, okay, well, maybe I'll tweak it this way or tweak it a little bit that way. But that really made a lot of sense, because so many times I'll finish and it takes an extra little bit. Okay, I'm done. But then how do I want to transition to the next one, or what is the next one? And I thought that's probably some of the best advice I've read in a long time, is when you're writing, write to a point where you know what the ending is going to be and stop. And then, let it just permeate the brain for however many, half hour, 2 days, whatever it may happen to be. That way, when you come back, you know exactly where you're going to pick up and what you're going to do. And then the rest of the thing gets developed. So I thought that was pretty good advice.
Yeah, I think it is too, because a lot of times I'll write something and then I'll get up and go away and do another chore, and I'll be thinking about what I just wrote, and I'll like make sure that it's true to the character. Would the character really have done that? Would they have said that? Was that the right tone, or do I need it to be a different way? So if I think about that, I can tweak it right away, and so I'm still thinking about it, and then I'm thinking, okay, and what do they do next too?
Editing. That's a bane for us writers. How do you go about editing your books?
Well, once I write it for the first time, I always go back and I'm making sure that every scene is filled out. So I'm describing what's around because a lot of times if I'm just writing, conversation or the action, what's happening, I kind of forget to write the background. So show people where they are and what it looks like around them. So I always fill in those details. Then when I think I take 2 or 3 rounds, with a book like that. So then it goes to my editor, and she doesn't only edit for grammatical things, which we always have, but she also, looks at things like, have I gotten everything the same in the whole series? And is there enough feeling in this scene, or do I need to fill in more with these characters? So she will give me notes on those type of things, as well as fixing up the grammar. So then I'll have another round when I can look at it, answer questions that she had, or fill in where I need to fill in. Then she gets it back again. She has the last round, and then the final will go to a proofreader. So I have 2 rounds with my major editor, or my main editor, and 1 round at the end with a proofreader. So between all of us, we usually can catch anything and make it the best book it can be.
Okay, so your main editor is a developmental editor and a copy editor.
Right.
Do you ever use the function where you can have the computer read back to you, where you can actually hear it I use that a lot for myself, whether it's just a blog or whatever, because I want to hear what it sounds like. Because sometimes I can read and it's a big error, but I don't see it, but I hear it. Have you ever used that function of being able to listen to what you're writing?
I say it to myself in my mind. I don't actually have the computer read it to me, but I'll say it to myself in my mind several times if a sentence is not looking right, or I'm a very auditory person, so I will do that. Like if I'm rereading a scene, I'm kind of reading it in my mind and listening in my mind, not really out loud, but sort of out loud in my own mind, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's just one of those features available in Microsoft Word that I use a lot because it's, to me as a writer, it just really solidified. That's exactly what I wanted to say, or that doesn't
Mhm.
sound right. Uh, I usually have editing parties at my house where I have, little snacks and alcohol and whatever, and do a little social intercourse for about 30 minutes with different people, and then give everybody random chapters in a red pen and let them take the next hour and just read. And I've gotten some really, really good feedback from people that, I told the story fairly often, if and when. I have a tendency to use if a lot, but once I found out that I do, when I go back toward the email, I'll do find. And I think the first time that I was pointed out to me, I had 86 ifs and I changed 82 of them to when.
Yeah.
So, but there's just little things there that as you get better and better at the writing and editing and all those things, it just makes it more fun. Uh, but you win a lot of awards. Is that something that your publicist put you in for? Is that something you go after yourself? Or tell us a little bit about your award-winning
Yeah,
books.
all the ones I've done so far, I'm new with my publicist right now, so that's the first time I've ever had a publicist. But so all the awards, one for the Colorado Independent Publishing Association, for my Kingdom of Embers book, which is the first in the Kingdom Journal series, which is a YA urban fantasy series. And that series is an adjacent series to the Realm Chronicle. So those characters jump back and forth, which is, I can't let go of characters, so I just have to keep going with them and not let them go. But so yeah, I did that on my own. I really enjoy getting in that community with other authors because I learn a lot from other authors and I feel like we can support each other. So I really enjoyed that. With the Independent Publishers Association, I got an award for my audiobook of To Be a Fey Guardian that Jillian Yetter narrated. So that was really fun. That's a big, worldwide organization. So it was really fun to meet people from bigger publishing houses because I'm an independent publisher, so I haven't met a lot of people in that industry. So that was a lot of fun going to that award ceremony with my narrator and just being able to experience that with her. I never met her in person before, um, so yeah, I've just looked for things in my community and in the organizations that participate in so far. So I'm hoping that with a publicist that is even I have more opportunities for those.
Now, you mentioned the audiobook. Not all of your books are on audio, is that right?
Right. So the two series that are on audio right now are Kingdom Journals and the Realm Chronicle series. So currently 4 books from the Kingdom Journals, that's a complete series, and then 3 books, the first 3 books in the Realm Chronicle series. So the YA fantasy series that I've written. My narrators have been amazing. I am so lucky to have met all of them because their voices just fit exactly in with what I pictured in my head, which was too amazing to me. And then to just be able to hear my books, I listen to them over and over all the time. Like if I'm prepping to do the next book in the series, I listen to the one before it while I'm in the car. So just like I have my mindset of where the characters are, what's been going on. So when I start writing the next one, I can, just be immersed in their world and know right where I need to go. So that has been a lot of fun for me. I mostly listen to audiobooks when I'm reading. I'm reading but listening. That's how I do my books, I guess is what I can say.
Well, that makes a lot of sense because you got to know what happened in order to write the future. So,
Right. I mean, it just jogs my memory. Obviously, I know major points of what happened, but all the little minor things that, I may forget between the 3 or 6 months in between writing something.
How do you market your books?
So far, I've just done self-marketing, self-promotion through social media. I love my newsletter subscribers. I get tons of emails back from them. So if I have a new book coming out, I'll send out little details and I'll get feedback for them. A lot of times I have them choose my character names and choose my characters. I have them choose like a type of fantasy character that's going into a book. I think I put out, I don't know if I put out for a title yet. I haven't done that one yet. But so yeah, I love interacting with my newsletter subscribers, and all the interaction we get on social media is so much fun to me. And I also love being in person. So I love going to book fairs and book cons and really I have a podcast, and that's why I started my podcast, because couldn't be with the other authors or with other readers. So I thought, if I start a podcast and I can talk to my author friends who I would normally see, plus other people can find out about our books. So that's why I started my podcast. But I just love being in the community because I feel like it's a really supportive community.
Do you use AI for anything at all in your books?
I do not know. I mean, I guess, I was noticing the other day that like my Microsoft Word program was telling me what next word to do, and you could hit tab. But other than that, I don't use AI now.
Okay. I've used AI a few times for cover designs. The author tells me what he wants, and I can go in and have AI create 3 or 4 or 5 covers. I'll send them all to the client. And then he says, I like number 2 and number 4. And then I'll take those 2 and send to a designer and say, this is what my client likes. Make me something that has this in there. And so
Right.
I found for cover design, the AI is pretty decent about taking verbiage and creating an image based on what the words are. So I get a cover. How do you do your covers?
So I have a cover designer, and I'm a really bad drawer, and she's told me that I am not good at drawing. But I usually will just hand sketch out what I'm thinking of, and then have her produce it. I have an idea. I guess I want to say I'm not tech savvy, but I am, because I built my own website. I do most of my own social media and things like that. But when it comes to things like that, I don't know. I like pen and paper, and I like drawing and coloring and all that. I mean, I can color. That's not hard, but I'm not a very good drawer. But she seems to be able to interpret what I want anyway. In my Fae series, the covers are just different poses of my Fae, I guess. So my cover person developed hers from an Ice Queen picture. Like we took an Ice Queen and then made her look like my Fae has red hair and wings, so not like the Ice Queen had like all white face and white hair. So we just kind of tweaked some other images that I found that I liked.
I usually take in, for a book that I don't have a cover of my own, I'll buy $5 covers off of Fiverr.com and put them on Facebook and say A or B, B or C, C or D. And I found over time that authors are very poor at creating their own covers. I love this one, but nobody else likes it. And the one, well, that's okay, but that's one that everyone else likes it. And it's amazing that over time, for a very modicum investment, I get 4 or 5 covers and I throw them out there and say, what do you like? And then the audience tells me, and I find that to be a pretty good feedback mechanism for me. And I think the same thing would work with titles, because I've done that a long time ago. I was trying to think, I need a title with 5 words. I don't want more than that because of the size, but the subtitle could be almost anything. But with your kind of books, do you have subtitles on your books? I forgot when I was looking at them if they did or not.
No, not really. No.
I was going to say, I looked at quite a few of your books before we began today, but I didn't remember to look. Oh, does she have a subtitle? But I didn't remember seeing any. But that's another thing I try to concentrate on too. But anyway, on your writing career, is there anything that I should have asked you about any of your books, your characters, that we haven't covered today that you want to add that extra little bit before we go to the end of the show?
I don't think so. We covered all the genres that I wrote. So I started with my Being Me series, which is the story of the girl who recovers from anorexia. And then I moved into fantasy really quickly with I wrote a standalone novel, Drops of Sunshine, and then I wanted to write a vampire series, but it became a witch series. So that is the Kingdom Journal series, which led into my faith fantasy. And because my brain gets too stocked, then in between writing fantasy, I write the romance, which has been the Perfect Romance series, which there are 4 books in that series now. So yeah, I love writing. I love creating. I love the characters, and I love showing, characters who overcome whatever is going on with them, whether it's uh, personal or anxiety or just things that are thrown at them in their environment, just like how characters can do that and showing that inspiration and resilience.
Do you do any book signings or speakings or anything like that you use to promote yourself in your books?
I do. Like recently, it's been more local ones. Next year, I have authors take Roanoke in Roanoke, Virginia, and I'm going to Salt Lake City in June. So that's going to be a lot of fun. This summer, I stayed locally. I have one in Colorado Springs over Labor Day weekend. That's a Books and Brews. So that'll be fun.
Well, we're getting toward the end. How do people find your books?
So the easiest way, you have it up there, is my website, but all the books on Amazon and Audible and ebook paperbacks, as well as my middle grade book also has a hardcover edition.
Okay, and your website is triciacopeland.com, correct?
Right. Yes, I could say that. TriciaCopeland.com.
And for our audio audience, that's Tricia, TRICIA, Copeland, COPELAND.com. Tricia, I'm going to give you the last 10, 15 seconds. Anything else to tell our audience before we conclude?
Thank you. Yes. And I think you could see it on my website there, but I do have 2 free short stories. If you go to my website, you can download the free short stories when you join my newsletter. So that's a good way to pop in and see if my writing is something that you'll like.
Fantastic. Tricia, thank you so very much today. And we have other shows for authors on the USA Global TV and Radio Network, one called the Corner Bookstore. I do have a chance periodically to interview people on that particular platform, as well as the wise ones that we're on now. So again, thank you so very much for your time today, and I really enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you, Red. I appreciate it.
Take care, and we're concluding on the wise ones today here on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. Next week, Amelia Younge will be our guest on the wise ones, and immediately here, let's see, in about 19, 20 minutes, Talking Heads is another program that I do on a regular basis every week. This week, we're starting a new topic. I'm calling it The Heart of Health. We're talking about how age affects us, but primarily how age affects our hearts. And that's the focus that I want to look at for the next couple, 3 or 4 weeks with regard to, what can happen, what can we do about it, and get into a little bit of the aging process, a little bit of the heart health, and some other interrelated functions within the body. So again, red.olaghlin signing off on the wise ones on the USA Global TV and Radio Network, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Take care, y'all. Bye now.
Hello, I'm children's author Diane Floyd Boehm, and I am co-host for several of the USA Global TV and radio shows. I joined because of the purpose of the USA Global TV and radio. They provide content for the viewers and listeners, an opportunity for people around the world to have their own show or even be a guest on an existing show. We truly believe in helping others get their positive message out to the world. We also have the opportunity for the listeners. You can watch on several platforms, and on YouTube, you can ask questions and even give a comment. We absolutely love it. I love being part of the USA Global TV and Radio because I love positive messages And who doesn't? And we need more of that in the world. We are a family, and we hope you will join us and become part of the family too.
This program has been brought to you in part by Zane Carson Carruth, etiquette and protocol expert, international award-winning author, television show host, and philanthropist. Thank you to Zane, our official diamond sponsor for USA Global TV and Radio in partnership with E360 TV. Zane is the author of the world's first tooth fairy ever, as well as many other children's books. She's also the television host of Elegance, Polished Demeanor, and Posh Living, seen on USA Global TV and Radio.
Hi, my name is Zane Carson Carruth, and I'm the author of this book, The World's First Tooth Fairy Ever.
Reading is magic. Studies have shown that reading to your children lays the foundation for greater success in life. Reading helps develop language and vocabulary skills. It helps improve memory, and it encourages curiosity and inspires creativity. The benefits are immeasurable, and as a parent, you'll benefit too. In only 10 or 15 minutes a day, you'll be creating warm memories and a bonding experience that will last for years to come. So take time to read to your children. Read them books about things that engage and interest them. Tales of fairies and magic fascinate children, and as everyone knows, the Tooth Fairy is at the top of the list. If your child loves magic, wands, adventure, and what child doesn't, you'll love reading them books from the trademarked series, The World's First Tooth Fairy Ever. Follow along as Abella, the world's first tooth fairy, accidentally starts the tooth fairy tradition. Learn the tricks of being a professional tooth fairy in the book, Abella Starts a Tooth Fairy School. Your child's imagination will soar as you read the adventures of Abella and her magic wand. These wonderful books are available at worldsfirsttoothfairy.com and at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Walmart.
To learn more about Zane, contact her through her website, zanecarruth.com, ZANECARRUTH.com. Order Zane's books and merchandise. Contact her about being a keynote speaker at your next event.